evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. Additional standard operating procedures, SOPs, have been put in place to prevent child abuse and death cases at daycare centers. Women, Family and Community Development Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri says among the new SOPs is an alert system created for daycare centers in government buildings.
Nancy stressed that it is important to ensure the daycare is registered with the Welfare Department. She said closed-circuit television CCTVs are installed in daycare centres for monitoring. Additionally, Nancy said daycare centres at government buildings have a reminder system, 30 minutes if the child hasn't arrived at the daycare centre, to monitor their attendance. She said the ministry is also working with the police to screen workers at daycare centres, ensuring that they do not have criminal records.
The Sabah government will speed up water supplies to 355 villages across the state as the dry spell continues. Chief Minister Datuk Seri Haji Nur says his administration has set aside 7.5 million ringgit to direct water to some 50,000 affected households.
The affected villages involve 12 districts, namely Tongot, Tuaran, Papar, Keningau, Sempurna, Kota Belud, Tenom, Pitas, Kota Kinabalu, Penampang, Kudat and Tawau. Hajiji said the state government was working in collaboration with the National Disaster Management Agency and that the Sabah Water Department and Disaster Operations Command Centres in the affected districts had started distributing water to the people. He noted that the water treatment plants at river catchments were on the verge of running dry due to the drought, which began in mid-February. As of Tuesday, a total of 1,392 forest and bushfires were recorded across the state. The Malaysian Meteorological Department, Met Malaysia, also recommended cloud seeding operations over areas affected by the prolonged hot and dry weather from March 28th to March 30th.
Meanwhile, the government today launched the Solar for Rakyat Incentive Scheme, or Solaris, to encourage the installation of solar photovoltaic systems in residential homes. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadila Yusof says this is part of measures to help reduce carbon emissions from the country's power supply sector.
The scheme will provide rebates of up to 4,000 ringgit to new users under the Net Energy Metering NEM program. Fadila, who is also Energy Transition and Water Transformation Minister, said the scheme would be open to all Malaysian citizens, with a one-time claim limit per person who holds a TNB account. He added that the installation of solar PV systems should be expanded to increase the renewable energy generation capacity in the electricity supply system to 70% by 2050. The rebates would be given on a first-come, first-served basis from April 1st to December 31st this year.
The National Poison Centre NPC at University Science Malaysia recorded a 5-fold increase in e-cigarette poisoning cases last year. Its chief pharmacist for Drug and Poison Information Services, Sulastri Samsudin, says more than 95% of reported cases were symptomatic.
She said majority of patients' symptoms were consistent with nicotine poisoning, such as severe vomiting, drowsiness, diarrhea, abdominal pain, fainting and seizures. There were also patients who showed more severe symptoms such as psychosis, hallucinations and aggressive behavioural changes. Sulastri said the number of e-cigarette poisoning cases had increased by 30.6% in 2023 compared to 2019. Many of the cases, she added, involved children under the age of 5, largely due to unsafe storage and lack of safety features. She called on the government to speed up implementation of the 2023 Control of Smoking Products for Public Health Bill, which was passed in Parliament last year.
We'll be right back after the break.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
pula tuanku.
Welcome back. Awareness on neurodivergence is on the rise. Many neurodivergent individuals are a part of the Malaysian workforce today, and the number of them joining higher ranks in the coming years is expected to increase. University Malaya's Dr. Safia Omar suggests her views on how to better support them for a more inclusive and diverse workforce.
Because we can see that there is an increasing number of neurodivergent people in over the world actually, but in Malaysia itself, I think you can see that according to worldpopulationreview.com, approximately 325 individuals are diagnosed with ASD, autism, and 432 with ADHD for every 100,000 of populations in Malaysia. Okay, this is the current figures that we have right now, and it will increase in the future for sure, because we can see that there's a lot of increasing numbers of kids who are actually coming from these neurodiverse groups. Now, if we don't do anything currently to support workforce with neurodiverse group, we would not be able to to utilize these people and be able to give them opportunity in the workforce, so they be able to actually generate their own income and support themselves in the future.
Dr. Safia added that it is important to acknowledge and embrace the unique talents of neurodivergent individuals.
I think one of the things is that company usually they mislooked the talents, the powerful talents that this neurodivergence persons could have. Basically, if you can see that people with neurodivergence, they are actually powerful in terms of, where they have a typical brain function when they looked at problems and also anything that they want to solve in a different unconventional angles, or where we talk about the solutions that is actually different from neurotypical person. And I think one of the things is that without this what we call it awareness for people who have neurodivergence, we sort of going to mislooked in terms of getting more innovative, as well as being more creative as an organization, as well as the performance. Because there are research that conducted by certain companies that have already they sort of like doing neuro-inclusive policies, where they basically find out that by including this neurodivergence, their profits, their performance are actually increasing by 30%. So I think this is something that we have to look forward in our workforce in Malaysia.
Dr. Safia says supporting neurodivergent individuals at the workforce must start with transparency and awareness. This is the first step towards creating a more inclusive workforce.
The first thing is actually we need to have this sort of like it has to start with the neuro inclusion hiring program, where we should have been transparent, and also in a way we will support people with neurodivergence, including in terms of their behavioral inclusion as well as the structural inclusion, which means that in terms of their mindset, their skill sets, their relationship, and also we have to make it transparent structures. Also, the process and the practices must be accommodated towards what is needed by the neurodivergent person. And in terms of the employees itself, I think the work environment also needs to be allowed for them to maintain, for them to increase their productivity, and also while alleviating their common struggles. For example, some of them, might have sensory issues, where we can actually put a little bit of, some calm room, or we could adjust some lighting, which can actually tone down, their anxiety, and also to increase their feelings of comfortability working in the organization.
According to Dr. Safia, it is also crucial to structure policies to support neurodivergent individuals at the national level.
The most important is that I think with the growth numbers now and in the future, I think we need some sort of like approach or policy that not just govern, in specific companies, but I think we need to have certain acts that will cover this policy for, in protecting neurodivergence groups for our nation, for the whole national in Malaysia, which means that we will say that, we do have the Akta of Orang Praupaya, for example, 2008, but it doesn't specifically noted about or, protecting people with neurodivergence. So I think this is something that we need to have in order for us to go forward, moving forward in terms of in the workforce.
On to foreign news, 6 people are presumed dead after a container ship hit Baltimore's iconic Francis Scott Key Bridge. The U.S. Coast Guard concluded that the men had died and intended to suspend its massive search and rescue effort. Search divers were expected to continue their search for the bodies of the 6 men later on Wednesday. The men were believed to be crew members working on the bridge and are citizens of Latin American countries. Officials said the collapse occurred when a large ship experienced a power failure early on Tuesday, leading to a collision with a 4-lane bridge. The ship was identified as the Dali, a Singapore-flagged container ship. Meanwhile, Singapore's Marine and Ports Authority said the Dali had passed all necessary inspections at the time of the incident.
Away from the search and rescue.
Indonesia's losing presidential election candidate Anies Baswedan says last month's polls were unjust and not freely held. Laying out his challenge to the Constitutional Court today, he calls for a rerun and to disqualify Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto from the ballot.
Di antara penyimpangan yang kita saksikan adalah penggunaan institusi negara untuk memenangkan salah satu calon yang secara eksplisit tidak memenuhi kriteria yang ditetapkan. Terdapat pula praktek yang meresahkan di mana aparat daerah mengalami tekanan, bahkan diberikan imbalan untuk mempengaruhi arah pilihan politik, serta penyalahgunaan bantuan-bantuan dari negara, bantuan sosial yang sejatinya diperuntukkan untuk kesejahteraan rakyat, malah dijadikan sebagai alat transaksional untuk memenangkan salah satu calon.
Prabowo was declared the winner in the February 14th elections, securing 60% of the votes. Anies had come in second with 25%, followed by Ganjar Pranowo at 16%. Ganjar had also challenged the poll's outcome in court after Anies. The government has denied allegations of election interference.
Meanwhile, Brazil and France launched a €1 billion investment program to protect the Brazilian and Guyanese Amazon rainforests over the next 4 years. They pledged to work together to stop deforestation in the Amazon by 2030 in order to slow global warming.
The announcement came during French President Emmanuel Macron's 3-day visit to Brazil, where he was met by the South American country's president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. It was the first visit by a French president to Brazil in over a decade and marked a sharp reversal in relations since the administration of Jair Bolsonaro, Lula's far-right predecessor. The former president had clashed with Macron's government over environmental degradation. In a joint statement, the two leaders proposed the creation of a carbon market intended to reward countries that invest in natural carbon sinks. It also includes support for indigenous peoples and local Amazon communities. The program comes a year before Brazil hosts the COP30 climate negotiations talks in 2050.
That wraps up Awani Tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Saraya Mia, and good night.